What is freaking up? My name is Eve.
My name is Sarah.
And we are Burnt Out Perfectionists. We thought for one of our first episodes we'd talk about the generational differences between us. So I was born in the early 2000s. I know, 2000s and Sarah was born in 1984.
Born in 1986, you bitch.
I just like to minus a couple off just to see if she's listening.
So rude.
So I don't really know. Like, where do you want to start?
There's so many differences, especially now, like, compared to, like, you, my kid, other people that we know, like, so many differences with, stuff. Like, what about the approach in which our parents had to school, as an example? So, like, it was considered like new age or almost hippie at times, where like I would go to school. I was a massive procrastinator. So say sometimes I would get a project done. So naturally I would procrastinate till the very last fucking day. And I would be like, oh my God, I need all the things. And our parents would run me around and get all the stuff. And then I would be like, oh, okay. And I would stay up like sometimes till like fucking 3 a.m, or I wouldn't sleep. And I would just like power it out, which is terrible because like in recognition, I would get an A or a B for those projects, which just proved that like, oh, I can do it in that amount of time. Why would I waste other time? That's how I saw it, which is not the best mindset. But yeah, like they would turn around and be like, oh, okay, like you did that and everything. And they'd be like, hey, like what classes do you have later? Or like, what do you have going on later in school? And I'd be like, well, like I have like gym or art class or something like that, which like the arts are important, but sleeping is very important stuff too. And they would be like, okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to do your presentation, and then you're going to have a mental health day for the rest of the day. You're going to get signed out, call us, get you signed out, and then you can just like come home or whatever. And you're just going to have like a moment to think, just a moment to chill and decompress and hopefully sleep and like eat properly. And I remember like saying that, or when you just have like midterms and shit and you're just fucking, I'm the worst when it comes to taking tests. So I'm like overshare. I go to the bathroom frequently, whether it's to vomit or shit. When it comes to tests, I have like the worst. Now, there wasn't test anxiety when I was a kid, and now it's 100% recognized.
There was the thing, it just wasn't recognized.
It just wasn't recognized. You're just told to suck it up. And that's like a big thing, right? It's like I would go through all the stuff, you study, you do all the things, you stay up late, you're very anxious, and then I would be like, yeah, I mean, like, I'll go to school, like, I'm totally fine. And like mom and dad would look at me and be like, no, you're having a mental health day today. And I was like, what? And I didn't realize that other people's parents like didn't do that.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, well, the other thing too is that like mom and dad were in their like early 20s when they had you, and I think mom and dad were like 38, 39 when they had me.
Yeah.
So like definitely I feel like over time it was different. I remember like growing up I would go to school and stuff. I never was like sick though. It's a very weird thing.
The immunity system of a fucking god is Eve.
Yeah, like I don't remember staying home that often unless I was like injured or something. Because our parents always had the mentality of a recovery day. So if you were like not fully healed, but like if you weren't sick anymore, then the day after they were like, okay, you get one more day. Make sure you're all good. Make sure you're not like vomiting and like shitting yourself, and then you can go to school. And I remember some of their kids, their like parents were quite hard on them. Our parents weren't like, you need to be perfect.
Oh no, what about the kids who came to school sick? Like, I love how this was like a brand new concept, when the panorama started. That you shouldn't go to work or you shouldn't go to fucking school sick. And I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't go sick. Like, mom has like that calculation that her mom gave her where it was like, when you have a cold, you're like 3 shitty days, 3 days where you're okay, and 3 days where you feel fine, but you should still not be around anybody because you're gross. And like the last little bit. So like, but that was a huge thing where it was just like, you need to take time to heal. Cause if not, like you'll lapse in health. Like I got really sick when I was like in grade 4 and I passed out in class. So like I went I wasn't feeling well, but I didn't really say anything. And then I went to school and I was like, oh, I'm so hot. And I was standing near my teacher's desk. And I went to take my cable knit sweater off. And I was like profusely sweating. And I passed out halfway through the process, landed on the ground, and awoke to my very frail grade 4 teacher, Mrs. Ray.
Shout out Mrs. Ray.
She was the best, leaning over top of me going, Sarah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And I was like, yeah. And then mom and dad came pick me up. I had this like really bad stomach flu. And freaking, I was like at home for like a while dealing with all of this. And then I remember I was like, I feel so good. I'm going to go outside and play. And I was like, no, you're not. You're going to sit your fucking ass down. And I was like, why? And he's like, you feel fine, but there's still things that are being repaired in your body. So like I was at school for like 2 weeks, and I remember the school was like, are you going to send her back? Not the teacher, by the way. This was just the nosy ass fucking principal who I could not stand. And they were just like, are you going to send Sarah back to school? Well, here's all this work. And mom's like, she's really sick. She's not doing fucking homework. So like mom became like my at-home teacher when I could do stuff and in between having naps and all that other shit. But that was like a huge thing, is like even the school was like nagging. When I went to school back in my day, it was very like grade forward, where it was like obviously they focused on grades like for you, which now where we are in British Columbia, they're phasing out grades. Fun fact. And that was like a huge thing, right? And it was always like, well, did you do your best? Yeah, well then that's the grade that you got if you did your best. Like not everybody's good at everything.
I also feel like the education system has like deeply changed from the difference between the two of us, because like when I would do math and say like grade 5, you're like, I didn't do this shit until like grade 8.
Yeah, no, it does that. Like it constantly enhances. Dad was always like, it's a system to make the parents feel like fucking morons, even though he was like he was really good at math. But there was stuff that like you were learning, or like other people that we know that were learning, and I'm like, whoa, I learned that like way later.
Yeah, like I think definitely math was one of them. Like I feel like English doesn't really change that much. Like it's just English.
What is a verb?
What is a pronoun?
It's an action word.
What is an adverb? And I feel like that definitely like changed a lot. And I feel like growing up, it wasn't like parents having as much pressure, but I feel like because my generation had a lot more social media, so we had like societal pressure to be perfect.
100%.
And like I was talking to Sarah about this before, about she married one of the people that she went to like middle school with, and they used to hang out in like our basement. It was very That 70s Show minus the weed.
Oh yeah, 100% minus the weed.
Like
I didn't do the drug.
I would come home and like her husband, back like when he was like 13, was on my couch and I was like 4 or 5, and that was like super normal that people were just in and out. I didn't have like people come over frequently. I kind of just had them like once in a blue moon. And like I feel like school for me was like I'd go to school, I'd do my work, and I would come home. And it wasn't this like early, like, you know, the early 2000s, like One Tree Hill, like where everybody like met up and they were like close and they would hang out and stuff. Like that was never.
Please remember that television shows are all an illusion. I mean, none of us got shot, stabbed, and our uncles were not killed in our high school.
Well, I was a part of a lockdown though.
Oh, I had bomb threats, but they like weren't like a big thing.
Yeah, but it wasn't like I remember like even like high school, I was playing like tons of sports and stuff like that, but I didn't have this like group of friends. And that's not saying that Sarah didn't have like the drama sort of with groups of friends.
Oh, that's totally. I blame social media as an old person, because it was just like people kept up on social media, and then social media also was like such like a fear machine in general, right?
I really want, I know it sounds really cheesy, I really want MySpace. Like something like MySpace to come back, because I feel like that would be my social media.
My MySpace was dope. So like you could have your own, like you could go onto the person's page. So it was almost like your website personal page. You would go onto the page, and then you could have like a song in the background. Like one time I had like that red jumpsuit apparatus song. Yeah. And then you could have like top 8. Top 8 was like the girlies who were like trying to get other people's attention or like piss their friends off would like list a bunch of people and they're like,
Oh, they're top
8.
8, yeah.
These are my top 8 people. It was very much like, I think there's something very similar in that movie, John Tucker Must Die. But it was just like a rating system, right? Like there was things that were like so simplistic and just like so awesome and fun. Like you could stick stuff on there. Like when Tumblr first came out, it was super fun.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like too with social media added, I feel like my generation and are they called Gen Alpha, the one underneath me?
Yeah, my kids is Gen Alpha.
Yeah, they have this like, I don't want to say desire, but it's like a societal standard that you grow up faster.
Yeah, 100% because there's no filter. Like when I was a kid, oh, here's a great generational gap between the two of us. When I was a kid, almost, I'm going to say 75% of kids were not allowed to watch The Simpsons because The Simpsons were seen as like inappropriate because Bart didn't listen to his parents. Like it was very much like the standard of which it was, oh yeah, that's like inappropriate. This show won't last, which is funny because it's been out since 1987. Yeah. And other shows that people didn't like were like Married with Children. Or the best one. Like I was allowed to watch all this stuff. My parents were like, well, that's just stupid. Like you teach your kids. Also, I'll be totally honest. I've learned more about the Bible from The Simpsons than I have from any other television program.
Yeah. I forgot it was.
Yeah. Like there's tons of stuff in there, but also like it taught a lot about morals and like talking to people like the shit that Bart and Homer did. You saw that there was cause and effect for what they did. It was ridiculous, but I think one of my favorite memories is when South Park came out. Yeah. There was a letter that went out at school. A letter. So this is very similar to probably any parents who are putting up with kids who are watching the Squid Games at a young age. But South Park came out and they're like, make sure you don't tell your kids. I want to say I was 10. I could be off. I don't have a computer to double check. I love Googling some facts. And our dad looks at it and goes, oh my God, are you ready to stay up for 10 p.m.? That South Park show's on. And I was like, oh yeah, they were talking about it at school and how we shouldn't watch it. And he's like, fuck that, I'm your parent. Like, screw that, who cares? And I've watched South Park on and off for years because it's like hilarious and ridiculous. And yeah, I remember there was people's parents who were like protesting stuff. There's just so many things that were just like so overblown because of like ratings.
But some of them are, but I feel like even like TV shows that you would watch as a kid, like I would watch them now, like Rainbow Bright or like all of those. They were like super chill and happy and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And then I was sitting there watching like some show on Netflix with Charlie and I was like, this is like very abstract. And you're like, oh, this is not the usual like sharing is caring type thing. It's like a lot of different things. And I was like, oh, this is weird. And I was like, oh, I kind of get why, because Sarah's always said that I'm an adult trapped in a child's body. Yep. And I was always like, oh, okay. Like I wasn't the type of kid to be like painting on the walls, fighting against things. Like I wasn't super like rebellious. As I've gotten older and like Sarah's had her kid and stuff, we've talked about more things about how her generation cares about like even like fashion type things. Like I blew Sarah's mind when I would say you're 3 or 4 months postpartum. You like not a lot of clothes were fitting you, and you were like, you know, the usual like upset of like I'm not the person that I was.
I was also like, I'm very fucking hot, but I don't know what to wear.
Yeah, so I went shopping with her, and like we show up, stuff like that. She's putting clothes on, and she's like, "Well, this would be so hot with a cami underneath." Like, mind you, this woman has worn a cami underneath her fucking clothing since what, early 2000s, like when it was cool.
You mean like when I graduated? Yeah.
Yeah. And I looked at her and I was like, "Take it off? Like, why do you feel like you need to wear that?" And she was like, I could not, like, it just, like, couldn't process not having a cami underneath.
Yeah, no.
And it wasn't even, like, coverage. Like, she would be wearing, like, a high neck, crew neck t-shirt that does not show anything. And she's like, I'm so hot. And I'm like, why are you putting on another layer?
Oh my goodness. Or freaking, other than that, the fact that it's like those weird little things that you don't think of. So like I didn't know that people wear like pullover hoodies or like jumpers like without shirts underneath.
Oh my God. So we always say that like Gen Z, like if millennials had 50 steps, Gen Z read the first two and then skipped to the last one and they were like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So I was walking around, I want to say it was like Costco. And I was like, man, I'm still kind of warm. Sarah's like, can you take your sweater off? And I was like, no, I don't have a shirt underneath. And this woman looked at me like I had just like dropped my pants in the store. Like it was just like, what? Like, no, why would I put a shirt underneath? It's like 28 degrees outside. Degrees Celsius outside. And she's like, what? And then the other one was,
Oh my God, bras.
oh my God, bras.
Bras. Oh my God, revolutionary. Heads up, everybody. And to each their own journey. But did you know that you don't have to wear a bra with underwire? Or that you don't have to wear uncomfortable bras? There's comfortable, pretty ones out there.
Not even comfortable pretty ones. So, like, this was, like, kind of the same red. I feel like a lot of revolutions came after you had your kid.
Yeah. Which some people would say that I stopped giving fucks, but it's like more like I was like, oh, I can just be comfortable and just really deprogram myself from giving a fuck about what society was telling me to be like a heroine model. And when I look back now at the shows that I watched when I was a kid and like magazine stuff, I'm like, man, no wonder like a lot of those girls come out saying that they have like eating disorders and stuff because like look at how thin they were. Like it's super disturbing. I mean, other than our eyebrows, it took mat leave and a half to grow my eyebrows back from what the 2000s did to them.
Which is so funny because I was like, I started plucking my eyebrows. I've always had very thick, dark eyebrows. And I like was terrible at upkeeping them. I also feel like I sneeze and they grow. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know what is about my hair. Like, my eyebrows, my eyelashes, and my hair just grow so fast. It just makes no sense. But I played a lot of sports, as I said, in high school. And I never wore a real bra. Like, I probably had one. And then I was like, well, I have sports all the time. What the hell is the point of me wearing a real bra? And Sarah was like, oh, I need to get, like, new bras. But I don't know what size I am. And I was like, oh, I just wear sports bras. And she was like, what? And I was like, well, they have, like, supportive ones now.
I would also like to point out that I went from a basically non-existent A, almost B cup to having my kid and having double D titties.
Oh, yeah, she was not gifted in the chest department.
No, and I was perfectly fine with that, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I have an ass that doesn't quit, but my freaking... I guess now I'm evened out so I don't bash things. I don't fall over as much. Well, the glasses help with that.
True. I have always kind of... I don't want to say... I have, like, an average-sized chest. I feel like for my size, I have an average-sized chest. I'm usually, like, a D. CD.
Yeah.
Depends what I want to accept on that day. And I just, like, owned a copious amount of sports bras. And I was like, yeah, they're comfortable. And then non-underwire bras became bigger. And
Except they were terrible because, like, sometimes you'd, like, put your arms up and they would just flip right over top of your tits. And it was just, like, a weird struggle under your shirt.
Yeah, I'm very against... my goals of a bra is something that doesn't roll, something that doesn't have a clasp. Because I hate clasps.
Yeah.
That's what they clasped. Weird. Clasp. And I was like, man, this is great. Like, I've never had, like, issues with my shoulders, issues with, like, things digging into me. Like, I had one bra that the underwire popped out and stabbed me, and I was like, this is the end.
I think another big thing, too, is, like, again, to each their own, but, like, I grew up being like, when you're an adult, you wear thongs. And they're expensive. And they're really nothing to be that excited about. A, you have a perma wedgie all the time. And B, they're expensive and they're not a lot of fabric. Eve goes, why are you wearing thongs? Like, if they're uncomfortable, if they're expensive, like, why are you wearing them? And I was like, so people don't see my panty lines. She goes, you want people to know that you're not wearing underwear? And I, like, the look on your face
I was appalled.
You were like, wait a second, you're judging me for not wearing a shirt underneath a fucking hoodie?
And you're worried about people seeing your panty
Yeah, it's like I'll wear 16 shirts, but like,
Dare they say it? They see a line on my underwear.
I know, and that's a huge thing. I mean, I think it's really funny because like even like combining the two kind of things that we've talked about, like school and clothing and stuff like that. I don't even think dress codes exist at school anymore.
We'll be posting every other Monday because weekly just sounds like, oh, that's a lot. On Spotify and other streaming platforms. If you need to know which streaming platforms, please check out our Instagram at Burnt Out Perfectionist.
It depends on like if you go to public school. Like
I
public
think-
school does it.
I think a lot of them are being like, okay, so I live down the street from a high school, and I feel like they've all been put aside just because I see like there's a variety. People wear a variety of things all the time in school, but at least I'm hoping that there's a lot less of those conversations of like, Sandra, you're being a distraction. Your shirt's too low cut because a girl with big titties is wearing a camisole top versus the girl with no titties who's wearing the same fucking shirt.
Well, that's the other thing is like with fashion, I feel like layers upon layers in like the early 2000s was a thing. And when I like started, when I got out of school or like even in high school, I said to Sarah, I was like, I just like to wear sweaters and leggings. I don't need anything other than sweaters and leggings. Or like I do have a good amount of joggers as well. But it's like I don't like up to the people who are like wanting to be like fashionistas, like good for you. I have a huge textural issue. Like, oh, I don't know if anybody's heard of Urban Planet, but like you know that like kind of see-through like t-shirts. I put one on and I instantly sweat and I'm like, ugh.
I think another thing, like to go back to like generational clothing caps, I thought you had to wear jeans all the time. I mean, low-rise jeans are the worst, and I can't believe people are trying to bring them back. They're fucking terrible. They just like, I mean, they work for some people. So like my friend who is under 5 feet was really excited because everything that's kind of high-waisted goes up to her boobs, even though she can get other things like in her size. And I was like, fuck, I don't want them back. They were like a tall girl's nightmare. Like it took me decades to find a place, and it was a place I never thought I'd want to buy my clothes just because we always bought like kids' clothes from there and stuff like that, like for you guys or for like my kid. And that's Old Navy, and I can go order the tall sizes and they fit me or they stretch properly. Like there's so many more options. So like when I was a kid, it was like there's one shirt. And that shirt goes from triple extra small, which isn't a fucking size, to extra large. And if it's anything above extra large, you have to go shop at like a plus size store, and they would just be so fucking mean to people. And that was literally it. And extra large, like you would even look at it and it was different in every store, and the length was different. So it was like so like nobody, I feel like a lot of people around my age, I mean, I'm not saying it's different for like for yours, like we all hated, like shopping was so heavily pushed on us, and a lot of us didn't like to go shopping because there wasn't things that fit us, and we didn't understand that we were basically taught like you have to fit the clothes, not the clothes have to fit you.
Yeah, and I think the kind of nice thing too about the like a nice note about social media is like for you, I feel like the targeted media gave you one narrative of this is how you need to be like the heroine model type
With the straight hair and the side bangs, with the side part, with the heavy eyeliner around your eye, with the pencil eyebrows, and with the concealer lips with the brown pencil.
And like for mine, I feel like I can kind of find any sort of like if I was like I want a hobby of like XYZ, then like if I want to do reading, I can go on like Book Talk, which I am obsessed with Book Talk, or like animals and stuff like that. Like I'm able to like find a community that's like that doesn't want to like obviously if someone's super into fashion and they like that's what they want to do and stuff, that's great for them. I have no like my body confidence is like negative 2000. Like if someone thought I looked pretty, I'd just be like, "Are you sure?" Like type thing.
I'm also awkward at taking compliments, which is weird because like our parents told us all the time, like, you're so smart, you're so beautiful, you're so good at what you do, and then we'd look at them and be like, ew.
Well, I had other issues from that, but I think like too, like at least you can kind of find like it sounds like the early 2000s with movies where you have like the jocks, the nerds, and like all of that. But
That was 100% my high school, by the way. I don't know anybody, like, you watch Mean Girls and there's the pockets of everybody. Hands down. We had the corner people. Those were those, like, really interesting kids.
I think like I got along with pretty much everybody in my high school. Well, unless it comes out now and they're like, ugh, how dare she? But I had like a standard communication with everybody and I knew who everybody was. I also went to a smaller school.
Yeah.
But I find that now, and like I was talking to mom about this, my college experience was like 1,000% different than anybody else. Well, than anybody else who's like older than me.
Oh, are you talking about, like, the fact that you did all your college online because of the vid?
Well, like, so when I came out of high school, I was quite introverted, and mom was like, I feel like mom was kind of excited for me to be able to be more social, and like she told me this, and
Because you were built for college.
I had the pretty notes. I had an iPad. I had before note taking on an iPad made you have a cool like notes app and stuff. Yeah. I had the printing and like the typing on the notes. I like made everything. I did it all on like Google Docs on Microsoft, changing all the colors and stuff. Not saying that I was the start of a trend, but I was like, I did this. And then when I went to college, so I work at a hospital, so anybody can guess what type of schooling I did. But when I came in, I was like, oh, this is great. I can be like really hands-on. And I started in like the September. In March of like my first year of college, that's when like COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I was starting to like open up a bit. Like it takes me a really long time to open up to people. And so we came back from winter break. We were doing great. We're all talking. We're starting to be a group. And then like it was like one Friday they were like, okay, we're gone. And I could just be introverted. Like I didn't have to go outside of my comfort zone.
But even like when you went to do labs, you couldn't stand too close to the person. You had to wear like PPE. Like you had to do all that stuff.
Oh yeah, and like I only had one lab partner. And I was like, okay, so I'm super introverted anyway. And like this is before I found out about like TikTok and stuff like that. Like none of my friends from high school went into like the program that I was in. Not a lot of them even like went to the same college as me, so I didn't talk to any of them. And then I was just like, okay, like I can be this introverted person, which like some of the pandemic, like a lot of people did really well and they thrived and they could like internally reflect. And I was like, oh, awesome. All of these things that I wanted to change about myself and be social about, I don't have to.
Avoidance is key.
And I was like, I'm a creature of routine because of my ADHD. So I was just like, I don't need to fucking deal with these people anymore. If I don't like them, I don't have to fucking deal with it. And so then it was like, oh shit, I need to initiate it now, which is terrible. I hate initiating. Well, I hate initiating, but I also like the middle portion, and I also like don't like concluding. I'm a solid middle person. And then after like instances happened, like events happened in our lives and stuff, after that, I was just like, I lost like pretty much my whole social group except for my one friend, or like maybe two. Like everybody that I was friends with became like acquaintances or like didn't know how to talk to me. And now that I'm outside of, well, like obviously the panorama's still going on, but my generation doesn't know how to socialize.
No, that's the funny thing. That's what I was going to say is like when I was your age, oh my God, I'm saying all the old people things. Like when I was your age, I'm going to be totally honest with everybody. I went to college when I was like 18. I call it first round of college because I was like, I need to fulfill the fantasy of everything that I've seen. And I turned like 19. We're in a smaller area, so like I felt comfortable going to like bars and stuff like that. And I would go to the bars. I'd get fucking hammered. I would go to Denny's at 3:00 in the morning. Like the classic where you're just like waiting for your payroll to go in because you know it goes in at 2:30 a.m. and you're like, oh fuck, by the time I get to Denny's it'll be 3. I should have money. But there was no fucking app to check. So you were just like, you were saying a hope and a prayer. Like you were just like, okay, maybe I can see. Thank God Denny's had an ATM. But it was like, I would go out. Like obviously you're careful when you go out, but it was like a thing. Like it was like a movement. There was like the moment where you would become friends with people and it was somebody's birthday and everybody would wear the same outfit. And you would go in. Now that's like more like, I feel like more like a bachelorette party thing, or you would like just not give a fuck and roll up to the bar. Like I rolled up to the bar in a trucker hat, pajama pants, a tank top, and skater shoes one time because I just didn't give a fuck. I just wanted to dance and have fun. Yeah. And there was no like you didn't have to worry about a lot of stuff. And I feel like a lot of people in your generation, at least even ones that I've seen, oh my God, like that one guy who I just like love. He points his cell phone at like the mirror, like all old school, and he's like, please stop asking me like how old I am and how I look like Donald Glover's dad.
Oh my God, I love that guy.
I'm 24 years old, and I was like, what the fuck? I'm like 12 years older than this guy.
Oh, that's really interesting. And I'm like, oh, love this man.
And his facts are all interesting. I follow him. He's fucking hilarious. But there's like a bunch of people, and then there's like the what the fuck is with millennials? Like, why do we all look so young?
It's certain millennials though, because I feel like that one person that was like going around on TikTok for a while. There was like a group of them, and this one person was like, "Yeah, I was born in like 1990," and like all of these people who were like in their later 30s were like, "What are you talking about? How are you like? How am I so much older than you, but I look so much younger?"
I feel like because like your generation, like our generation went through shit. Like obviously we went through 9/11 during like a peak time and stuff like that. We went through a lot of different things like recessions and foreclosures on people's houses and shit. Like it got pretty crappy at one point, but you guys have like, I didn't go through a global wide pandemic.
I think it's also like exposure. Like your exposure came from like probably TV or magazines or like
and dad saying that he's like, oh, I went out and got fucked up. Like, go have fun. Like, you don't need to get drunk. Just go out and have fun.
Delayed. Like, I feel like for us, I talk about like the whole generation, but I feel like the level of fear of fucking up is so high. So like if I go to a bar, I need to make sure that I hold my drink constantly or I could be drugged.
Okay, but like, so the drugging thing is the same with us, but I think the other thing is like Facebook came out in like 2005, at least that's when it started like reaching out to college people in Canada. And it wasn't a huge thing. It wasn't something that could literally kill your fucking career. It wasn't anything like that. And so there really was like no fear. Like we'd go out with like shitty cameras and take pictures. And now you could be at the bar. I'll give you as an example. You're a healthcare worker. You go to the bar, you're having fun with it. You're off the fucking clock. You're drinking, you're doing whatever, and then you walk in the next day, you're tired. You're not hungover, you're tired. And somebody that you work with pulls up a fucking video of you on social media getting fucked up. Yeah. And they are like, oh, well, this was just posted when it was from like Saturday or something. Yeah. This was just posted and it's like a Wednesday, and no one, it's not like your job's going to look into the metadata, or it would just be, it's just like I feel like everything is just so much more exposed. When we didn't really have that, it would be like, well, like we memorized people's phone numbers. We didn't go out with our phones. You lost your friends, you were fucked.
Well, exactly. And like even like with work or stuff, like you see everybody going out and like I feel like everybody finds their niche. Mm-hmm. And like once they find their niche, there's like it's easier to just be like, oh, I'm gonna go on TikTok and look up like a YouTube video or like TikTok video.
Many resources,
and like, I'm not saying that like YouTube wasn't a thing, or like stuff like that. Like it came out when you were in your 20s.
YouTube came out when I was in high school.
Did it? I thought it came out in 2009.
No, it was really, really new. And they had like red versus blue, if anybody knows that, who's a millennial. Like it was very like cheesy. There was this like a video in Australia's like, oh, WTF, mate. Like there was
Oh my god, the first one was a giraffe. Did you know that? It's a video of a giraffe.
Really?
Yeah. It's a random trivia question that I got asked one time.
Oh, super weird. But yeah, like YouTube wasn't really like there wasn't influencers. There was just promotion ads.
And I feel like for me, a big generational difference is role models.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So, like, for me personally, I have role models for different things.
Yeah.
But they're not like, I don't aspire to be one person.
Oh, like I wanted to be Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah.
I wanted to be Lindsay Lohan. I wanted to be as cool as her, or I wanted to like aesthetically cry and sing at the window that was raining, like Hillary Duff. Like,
Well, exactly. Like, there was a very small, like, there was a smaller group of people. Like, now I feel like there's different, like, they say the categories of celebrities of, like, A, B, like, influencers, actors. Like, I could say that I want, I just want, like, the excitement and, like, like, the caring of Remy Ashton.
yeah.
But I also love how, like, dedicated to the, like, Alicia is.
Yeah.
But then I also love, like, when Reese Witherspoon did the tour of her house.
Oh, when Reese Witherspoon did like the tour of her house, the other one is like Taylor King. So I like her content when she focuses on like asking people about the business and stuff like that on her podcast. Yeah. There's those like extra things, or like Ollie is an example, and he's like, come to work with me as a social media manager. And I was like, this is so interesting to me. Like, I love seeing that other aspect, because it's not just like, I'm a social media person. And it's like, this is what I do. Like, this is the extent of what I do. And I know a lot of people are like, their job isn't that hard. And I'm not saying it is. You literally cannot compare anybody's job anymore unless somebody does almost the exact same job as you at the same company. Everybody has a completely different experience.
Oh, yeah. Like, when Sarah first started working at the company that she works at now, we were talking about, like, the differences and stuff, and, like, the mental versus physical fatigue.
Oh, yeah. Like my company when I started is, like, find out what your Enneagram is. We get shit done. We do things. You take vacation when you need it. We don't tell you, like, if I said to my supervisor, if I said, oh, you know, like, I'm going to take this time off around this time, they don't turn around and go, well, we're actually really busy and it's the end of quarter. Could you reschedule that? They're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, have fun. Just, like, make sure things are up to date and tag anybody in anything that they need to follow up on. And it's just very, like, simplistic, which is great.
Which I find really interesting. And I feel like the influx of people leaving a standard corporate job, which, like, I remember when I, like, wasn't even in college yet, and, like, this had, like, started happening of people wanting to be influencers. And I had said to Sarah, I was like, I don't know why people are shocked. Like, when people are like, oh my God, I'm leaving. Like, so many people are leaving these standard scheduled jobs. And I'm like, well,
because it's fun and it's creative and it's different and it's not boring and it's not, no offense to boomers, appreciate all of you. It's not a boomer job. Like, we don't feel like, we don't feel nor can we afford to purchase homes, to do all the standard things that were out there. And then we had so much pressure on us to, like, do stuff like that. I didn't, I'll be totally honest. But, like, other people did. Yeah. And so we turn around and we translate that as, okay, well, we want to make sure that other people don't feel that and support them. And your generation is like, don't you fucking text me after 5 p.m. when I'm done work, bitch. I close my fucking laptop, you are done.
I also feel like, to give a bit of credit to millennials, I feel like they were starting the initiation of it, of being like, I'm not a huge fan of this.
Yeah, 100%.
And Gen Z, like, some of the people that I went to school with were raised by millennials, and they were just like, why am I doing this? This doesn't work for me. This doesn't fit what I want to do. Like, my one really good friend is an artist. Like, and I feel like if like somebody heard that like 20 years ago, they'd be like, oh, so you want to be poor?
you want to be poor, you want to live in like a studio apartment that your parents pay for, or live in your parents' basement.
I give it I take. I feel like generational differences, obviously we'll find them a lot more. Like, I think I really want to talk about like grief. Like generational differences with grief.
Yeah, that depends on personalities too. But like, I think a big thing is instead of butting heads, unless it's about low-rise jeans, then millennials will come out with fucking everything, hands in the air. I think that the millennials and the Gen Z are really working together instead of against each other.
I think
We could literally have an 18-hour podcast about the differences and like how much better. I just always say to Eve, like, Gen Z, in my opinion, as a millennial, is just living a far superior life that I wish that we could have. And then, like she said, well, the main reason why we can is because like we were the transition kids.
it's like you guys unlocked the door and we were like, okay, we'll open it now.
Oh no, you bitches didn't open it. You guys kicked that fucking door
We
in.
were like, move, bitch, get out of the way.
You're like, move, bitch, get out of the way. Fuck structured pants. Fuck tons of layers. I'm gonna be comfy as fuck. I'm gonna sit at home with my coffee and my aesthetically pleasing, adorable keyboard. I can get my fucking job done.
Hint at the delightful typewriter keyboard that I have.
Oh my god, the dopamine hits. The dopamine with the clicks and the colors and all of the things.
Stop. Yeah, but I think a little in the next couple weeks we'll dive more into like other things, and you guys can experience our generational differences from a Gen Z to a millennial. And I think that's pretty good for now. I think we probably talked it out.
So thanks for listening. Hopefully you can keep up. I've always been told that I speak a mile a minute. I know I speak a little bit faster than Eve, but thank you so much for listening.
And we'd like to make sure that you know that to always stay warped and twisted as ever.
Peace out.